Well, good morning everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, Running Your Business in the Cloud. This is the second in a series of 6 webinars brought to you by the Optimizing Business Broadband program. My name is Martin King-Turner, and I'm an independent IT consultant from the National B2B Centre. In the webinar today, we'll be looking at how small businesses use the cloud, and particularly I want to focus on the cloud's ability to enable flexible and collaborative working using tools such as Microsoft Office 365. As we go through the webinar, if you have any questions, you can use the box at the right-hand side of your screen. Please type your questions in there, and I'll do my best to answer them at the end. For those of you that were with me on the webinar last week, let me take this opportunity to apologise for running a little short on time for handling questions. I do promise that I will ensure I do make time at the end of this webinar to answer your questions. So if you do have any as we go through, as I say, please type them in and I will handle them at the end. So this is what we're planning to look at today. We're going to look at how cloud is typically used in small businesses. As I say, we're going to be focusing on cloud's ability to enable flexible and collaborative working. Maybe that's allowing you to work with colleagues, maybe that's allowing you to work from home, maybe that's allowing you to work with other people in other businesses in projects. I also want to talk about how cloud allows you to work with multiple devices, and by multiple devices I mean being able to use things such as laptops and smartphones and tablets. Most of us these days have more than one of those, and being able to access the right information, the right data from whichever device you happen to have at the time, the one that's most convenient, is a real productivity bonus if it's done correctly. So we will be talking about that. And I will also be talking about some of the thoughts on how to go about selecting cloud software and service providers, and some of the things to look at that go beyond the obvious. Looking at whether the functionality of the particular service or software is correct or appropriate. Before we do that, I just want to say a few words about the Optimizing Business Broadband program. Again, I know some people have been with us on previous webinars, but for those of you who are joining us for the first time today, you're very welcome, and let me say a few words about the program. It's running across Shropshire and Staffordshire. It's funded by the European Union, and at the end of the day what it's about is helping small businesses make better use of the opportunities that Superfast Broadband can bring to them. So it runs from now, well, the fibre broadband programs are aimed to get 93% coverage in Shropshire, 97% in Staffordshire by spring of 2016. And the Optimizing Business Broadband program itself is running between now and June 2015 to help you make better use of that superfast connectivity. So there's a website. I guess you've already found the optimizingbusinessbroadband.co.uk website to register on today's webinar. But if you haven't taken a look around that website yet, please do. As well as the webinars, there's a series of actual events that we're running. There's a series of called Practical Learning on the slide, but it's basically online material, articles, case studies, and also some workbooks to help you through various aspects of cloud and superfast broadband. And there is the opportunity for qualifying businesses to receive face-to-face consultancy support from myself and many colleagues who are available to provide consultancy to you on a one-to-one face-to-face basis. So all of that is available and accessible through the website, so please take a look. Before we go any further, or as a starting point really, I just thought it would be worth talking through one particular case study of a small business who have seen huge improvements in their business, huge growth in their business, both in terms of headcount in the business and also profitability of the business, by taking advantage of the sort of things that we're talking about today. And the company I want to just briefly outline to you is a company called the Seven Partnership. They're a company of chartered surveyors who are based just outside Shrewsbury. They're chartered surveyors, so they survey mostly commercial and industrial premises, but one of the things they survey is railway tracks for Network Rail. And on the screen you can see just a few photographs that sort of illustrate the things that they do. So top left is actually what the equipment looks like, so that's a digital surveying camera. And what that enables them to do is to automatically capture a digital representation of the scene that the camera is looking at, and that's seen in the middle picture here. And what they then can do is go further and turn that into, using computer-aided design software, turn that into an actual virtual representation of the railway line in this case, and then they can use that, and Network Rail use that to they can simulate going along the railway line. They can look at how the track can be how it can be configured, whether there's any line of sight things and signals and all sorts of stuff that they can do in the virtual world without having to go back to site. It's not just railway lines that they survey. This is a digital model, again through surveys of the football stand at a football ground. I think that's Shrewsbury Town Football Club's ground. That's their main stand. And this is a building, I think it is in Stafford if I remember correctly, but all surveyed digitally. And if we look at what they do in terms of the cloud, to bring it back to today's webinar, there's a number of things. They've been using cloud technology really for 5 or 6 years now, and it started by the use of, in their case, Google Docs and Google Apps. Google Docs, if you're not familiar with it, is Google's online version of Office software, so word processing, spreadsheets, presentation software. And they work entirely online, so all their documents and their spreadsheets they keep in the cloud. And what that enables them to do is to share very easily that document and the information in those documents between all the members of the company, whether they're in the office, whether they're at home, most importantly, whether they're working on site. But more than that, it also allows them to share certain information with their clients. So going back to the Network Rail example, the reason that Seven Partnership actually won that contract in the first place was to do exactly with what we're talking about. Network Rail, large company, obviously went through a tendering process to try and find a surveying company to provide the services. And Seven Partnership were shortlisted along with 2 other much bigger companies. In one case a national company, in the other case an international company. And obviously the Seven Partnership had demonstrated their credentials of being able to actually do the surveying job, and the price was right and all of those things. But at the end of the day, what swung the deal for them, what clinched the deal for them, was this ability to enable to share information. Because one of Network Rail's requirements largely for safety reasons, nothing else, was that Network Rail needed to know or be kept up to date of when surveyors were going to be working on sections of track, as I say, for safety reasons and many other reasons. And so one of their requests, one of their requirements of whoever was going to be providing the surveying services, was that that provider had to be able to keep Network Rail informed at all times of where the surveyors were, who was on site, and so forth. Now, the 2 larger companies said, yep, that's absolutely no problem at all. What we will do is we will provide you through email a daily a daily report of the activity for the day, and so you'll have it in your inbox, Network Rail, at 7 o'clock every morning, whatever it was. A fairly standard response, and probably the response that most of us would give if we were faced with that same request. But what 7 Partnership were able to do was they went one better. They said, well, actually, that's very, very simple, Network Rail. We have our, all that information we keep in spreadsheets. They're cloud-based. They are kept up to date real time because as our surveyors clock on and off, the spreadsheet is updated with who's on site where, because they needed that to run their own business. So what they said to Network Rail is, it's very simple. We will provide you via the cloud direct access to that same spreadsheet, so that you, Network Rail, sat in your office or wherever you need to be, have that real-time access to that very same information. And at the end of the day, that's what swung the deal. That's what clinched the deal for 7 Partnership, and that was a deal that doubled the size of their company overnight. All because they were using cloud-based infrastructure and were able to offer that level of information sharing, both with their surveyors, on site, but also with their customer in this case. And that was really the start of cloud and the use of cloud in the 7 Partnership. They've now gone further. They now have their CRM system online in the cloud. They link that to their Google Apps, contacts and documents, so that for all their projects information, all their quotation information, that's available to 7 Partnership employees, whether they're in the office, whether they're out and about, whether they're making presentations to clients, whether they're working from home, wherever they are. They don't share that with Network Rail or their clients clearly, but it enables them to be absolutely flexible in terms of where they work and when they work. And they've recently just taken on a Superfast Broadband connection, and that has enabled them to expand their workforce further. They've over the time that I've known them for the last 6 years, they've gone from a company of 5 people to now just over 20. With the Superfast Broadband now, they have staff able to work much more flexibly from home and from various sites that they work. They're also, because they're working in this digital world, you can probably imagine that the data files behind some of the, particularly the CAD type models that they produce, like the one on the picture here, they're massive data files, hundreds of megabytes. Right. And being able to send and receive those easily is another great bonus to their business and a great bonus to their productivity. So hundreds of megabytes can be transferred in a minute or less, rather than taking hours and hours. And that is now what they're looking at right now, is being able to work with much more collaboratively on much bigger projects in the international market, really enabled by this ability to share information and work flexibly. So I just wanted to talk through that briefly, to just sort of get the get a few ideas, hopefully maybe triggered a few ideas in your mind about how this particular small business has used cloud, and how it has had a really dramatic effect on their business. So let's just recap a little bit for those of you that were with me last week. You will have seen the next couple of slides. For those of you who haven't seen it before, though, let me just talk through this briefly about the benefits of cloud as I see them, particularly from a small business perspective. The first area of benefit, and the area of benefit that a lot of people will cite if you ask them why they're using cloud, is around cost. Now, cloud is not free. That's certainly not what I'm saying. But cloud changes the way you spend your money on IT. Because historically, IT was something of a capital cost. You may have had to buy servers, you certainly have to buy software licenses, and those tend to be, well, you might have to buy laptops and all the rest of it, and those tend to be, or can be, relatively expensive purchases, but more challenging from a small business point of view. They tend to be capital purchases, so they're large sums of money in big lumps. The cloud cost model is different, because the cloud cost model is much more the pay-as-you-go model. As you're probably aware, some cloud services are free, but not all cloud services are free. But those that are not free, where you pay on a pay-as-you-go type basis, so you're paying per user per month or per gigabyte per month, or in some way your cost will be linked to your usage. So firstly, it's no longer a capital cost, it's a revenue or operating cost. And secondly, you get that flexibility in cost, because if you need to, if you win a new contract or something and you need to maybe take on another employee or take on an associate or a temporary worker or something like that, then it's very easy to, if you're using cloud-based solutions, it's very easy, in fact usually just visit a website and you can add another user or get yourself another 100 gigabytes of storage space, whatever it may be. So it's very easy to increase the capacity of your system. And on the flip side, if a particular project comes to an end or business takes a bit of a downturn, you can scale that back down again reducing the cost. So basically your costs are much more flexible, and you can control them and you can move them in line with your business. Business expands. Yes, you use more of the cloud services, and that costs you a bit more, but your business has expanded, so hopefully you're generating revenue to fund it, and again you can scale it back down. Compare that with the capital costs of IT. If you bought a server, let's say, to service a particular need, and that need goes away, you can't then sell that server. You can't sell back half that server or something like that once you spend the capital cost. So you have a huge amount of flexibility in terms of the cost, and that's very attractive to small businesses from a cash flow point of view. The second area that I see cloud is really beneficial, and the one we'll talk about, highlight a bit more, is this flexibility and efficiency. I've hinted at it with the 7 partnership case study, but it's cloud, makes it accessible from anywhere, as long as you've got internet access, of course. It's available when you need it, on demand. You can get started in minutes. You don't have to worry about setting up hardware and software and all that kind of thing. And absolutely, it enables you to share information, as I've already illustrated, and I will talk some more about that in a few minutes. The third area, and my final area, is around productivity.
Yeah, put it out. As I say,
somebody on the call's got their microphone on. Steve, I think it might be you. Could you?
We'll take that with us, and if we find a Sainsbury's, we can use it.
Steve, if you can hear me, you've got your mic on, and everybody can hear you. Apologies for those who are hearing some background noise. I think it's my colleague who's actually not in the building with me, but he's got his microphone enabled. That sounds better. Thanks, Steve. Right, so the third area of benefit is productivity. So what this side is saying, that basically you don't have to worry so much about your IT anymore, so you're not having to worry about supporting it in hardware and software upgrades and all those kind of things. You can concentrate on doing whatever it is you do as a business, and use cloud and use IT as a service. For those of you who were with me last week, then the idea here is that IT starts to become an infrastructure part of your business, not something you have to focus on in your own right. So, how do businesses use the cloud? This is the graphic I like. I'm going to talk through it briefly and then highlight and then focus on the collaboration piece. At the bottom layer here, we have the connection. So that's about where getting the Superfast Broadband in 2014. My view is that you can't have too much connectivity, you can't have too much bandwidth. So if you can get Superfast connection, I would strongly suggest that it's worth making the investment. But flipping that on its head, I would say that if you don't have access to Superfast Broadband in the next few years, it will become something that will be an active disadvantage for your business. Next area is communication. I'm not going to talk much about that today, but that's using the cloud and cloud-based services for services such as email, Google Mail, Yahoo Mail. That's sort of well established, well known. The next area is community. That's using cloud-based services for social media. Again, not going to cover that today. There is a webinar later in this series that focuses on that area, and also focuses on the content area, which is all the aspects of using cloud and cloud services for the web, websites, analytics. The next area is the area of collaboration, so looking at apps such as Office 365, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, so I'll come back to that. And the final area is commerce, so using the cloud and software as a service to provide systems, software that you will use to run and operate your business, and that may be something simple for taking payments such as PayPal. It may be accounting systems. There's a couple of commonly used cloud ones in small businesses. Xero, the one highlighted on the screen here, and Sage have a product called Sage One. And then towards the top of my pyramid, we have applications such as Zoho, which provides CRM and some other office type functions, and then some more complex and extensive systems such as NetSuite and a few others that start to provide really integrated business management systems, ERP systems, those kind of things. Again, there's further webinars in this series that cover particularly CRM and ERP, so I shall not be covering those more today. But I want to focus for a few minutes on Office 365 as an example of an application to allow collaboration and enable collaboration. Now, Microsoft Office 365 has been around for over a year now, and it's something I get asked quite a lot of questions about because there seems to be a certain amount of confusion in the marketplace as to what Office 365 is and what it isn't. Let me just at this point re-emphasize the point that I am a totally independent IT consultant, so I'm using Office 365 for two reasons. One, because I get a lot of questions about it, and secondly, because it illustrates the points I was talking about enabling the flexible working and sharing of information. Let me say I do not work for Microsoft, and there are other application suites available, particularly the Google Apps suite, which provide similar functionality. But let me talk about Office 365 specifically to make some points. Office 365 actually comes in three flavours, costing either £3 a month, £7 a month, £8 a month per user. And for that you get sort of slightly different amounts. For the £7 and £8 a month versions, you get full Office desktop applications, by which I mean you get Word, as you probably have it already, you get Outlook, you get PowerPoint, you get Excel, but you also get Access, you get Publisher, you get Link and OneDrive, which I'll talk about in a minute. So you get the full Office suite to install, as it says, and you can see the slide, on up to 5 PCs or Macs. Now, if you already have a version of Office software on your desktop, laptop, computer, and you don't need another version of it, and you you either have Office 2013 at the moment, or you have maybe Office 2010 and you don't want to upgrade to Office 2013, then so far as the Office 365 is concerned, you're probably looking in this column here, the £3 a month, because you already have the desktop software. But if you don't have the desktop software, or more likely maybe if you have an old version of the desktop software and you're considering upgrading to the latest version, which is Office 2013, then I would certainly suggest you consider getting it through Office 365 rather than necessarily going to wherever you normally get it from, PC World, wherever it may be, and buying the CDs for £200 or so. Simply because, and if you remember back to what we were talking about before, one of the things you'll be doing if you do it with Office 365, you're going to be spreading that cost. So you're going to be spreading the cost across £7 or £8 a month, rather than having that one-off cost. But you will also, if you do go this way, you will get a lot more than just the Office desktop. So what are those other things? If you have the £7 or £8 a month version, what you also get is the ability to run Microsoft Office software on Windows tablets and iPad. And for those of you who have an iPad, that is a full iPad app. I'm not talking about running it through a web browser. That is a full iPad app, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, that enables you. It doesn't do absolutely everything the desktop software does, but it provides the all the features that I think most users would use on a day-to-day basis. They are there in that app. Full functionality. Create documents, edit documents, and as we'll see in a minute, share and synchronize those documents between your tablet and any desktop or laptop machines you have. And the £7 and £8 flavors also give you Office for smartphones, so you can view and edit Office documents on smartphones, be that Android or Apple iOS. Now it says edit Office documents on for smartphones. You can, but let me say that's not. It's editing them on a smartphone. You can only do some really quite basic editing. So I wouldn't suggest that you're going to create complex spreadsheets on the smartphone. Not least just because the screen size isn't big enough. But you certainly have the ability to view and synchronize and share all the documents across all of those devices. The other parts of the Office 365 package there are online versions of Word, Excel, PowerPoint, which are fully functional versions that run entirely through web browser, no other software required. You also get 1 terabyte, yeah, it really is 1 terabyte, 1 terabyte of cloud storage space. So I don't know if anybody here is using Dropbox or something similar to that. If anybody is, then it's basically similar to Dropbox. It's Microsoft's version of Dropbox called OneDrive for Business, but included in the package is 1 terabyte of space, and that compares pretty favourably in terms of, if you look at the price, what you're getting within the price here, and compare that with the price of that kind of storage space for Dropbox, then the Microsoft Office 365 offering is very competitive. Other pieces that are in the £3 and £8 options bundles, if you want them, are business class email. So you keep your own your existing email addresses, but you move them to Microsoft. You move them to the Microsoft infrastructure, and you also get in the £3 and £8 version something called Microsoft Link, which is basically a web conferencing tool. So you will then have the ability to run as many web conferences as you like with whoever you wish, colleagues, customers, whatever you wish to do. That's unlimited, and there is a little bit of social networking tools in there. I wouldn't worry too much about the social networking. I don't think it's going to be replacing LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook anytime soon. It's not its strongest piece. So for me, the key pieces really are about the ability to, well, firstly, a potentially cost-effective way to get to the latest version of Microsoft Office 365 on your desktop, laptop. Secondly, the ability to share that information across other devices, tablets, smartphones. And thirdly, having access to a terabyte of storage or backup space for uses, how you wish. So just to make that a little bit real for you, in terms of this sort of file synchronization, what does that look like? And synchronizing, when I mean that, between synchronizing firstly between what's on your laptop or desktop and the storage in the cloud. This is what it looks like. So this is a screenshot from my laptop. This is the standard Windows File Explorer, nothing different. Although I say nothing different, there's a couple of things that I want to point out. One is, if you're using Office 365, you will get two other favourite areas. One is the OneDrive for Business. That's that 1 terabyte of storage I talked about. And the other area is something called SharePoint. And SharePoint is an ability to create folder structures, but folder structures with specific security and sharing ideas. So we use this internally in our business, and what you're looking at on the screen here is the OBB, the Optimizing Business Broadband folder structure that I have on my laptop, and I share with my colleagues in the National B2B Centre, and indeed we share some of this information with other people who are working with us on the programme through Office 365 in the cloud. And the other thing you may have spotted is these little green ticks that appear against file and folder names, and what that's showing me is that those particular files have been synchronized with the cloud storage of Office 365. And if I looked at my cloud storage of Office 365, this is what I'd see. I see in the SharePoint space, I see an area called OBB. I see some other things that are other projects. And I think you can see within the OBB space on the cloud, I have an exact replica copy of the same folders and the same files, because they are exactly that, copies of the same folders and the same files. And that synchronization happens in the background on your laptop or on your desktop. So as you go through your daily work and you're changing files, you're updating files, creating new files, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, whatever you're doing, as you save those to your hard drive, as you would normally, then in the background they will synchronize and keep synchronized with the cloud storage. So what it looks like is this: you have here you are working on your laptop, and it then synchronizes a copy of the information, or the information that you want. It doesn't synchronize everything on your laptop. You have full control over what it does and doesn't synchronize. It synchronizes that to the Office 365 cloud, which is great, and on its own has some benefits, not least of which being online real-time backup. But as you can see in this diagram, of course, what it enables you to do is go a lot further, because now, of course, other devices can connect to the Office 365 cloud through Superfast Broadband or Wi-Fi in the case of tablets and smartphones. And so, again, under your control, you have full control over who can and can't see which files, which folders. You can then start to share that information, and indeed automatically synchronize that information if you want to with other devices. Maybe it's other devices that you own, or maybe it's other people's computers, or maybe you have a computer at home and you have a computer in the office at work and you want to keep those two synchronized. All of those possibilities are available to you. You can think of this totally generically because it is that flexible. So just to illustrate it on what it looks like on an iPhone. Here's the screenshots we saw before. So here's what it looks like on my laptop. Here's what it looks like if I log in to Office 365, which is an online system you access through a web browser. So this is just running in the web browser. If I look at it on my smartphone, this is what it looks like. And you will see, hopefully no surprises, it is exactly the same as on the other devices. So here are these folders, it's the same folders here, and you'll start to see here's this file, here's this file, here's that file. Obviously we don't have as much screen space on an iPhone, so it doesn't display as much on the screen, but we have exactly the same information. And if I then open on the phone any of those Office documents, in this case I've opened a PowerPoint presentation, it's in fact the very same presentation that I'm using right now for this webinar, then I see it on the phone, and in fact I do more than see it, I can actually edit it, although I wouldn't really suggest that's a day-to-day way of working. The screen is just too small. But most particularly what I can do is I can run the presentation, and I get all the animations, the slide builds, if you've got effects of transition effects between different slides. All of those things happen on the phone, and indeed on a tablet. So one thing I find really useful, if anybody, you develop presentations and you're out and about with a client and suddenly you think, oh, I really wish I had my access to my desktop or machine or whatever, because I know I've got some information sat on there that I really wish I could get my hands on at this point to share with the clients as you're sitting in front of them doing whatever you're doing. With this, you have it. You absolutely have it, and it's totally up to date. To the extent that if somebody else somewhere is updating information, then it is synchronized with your devices, in this case with your phone, in real time. So you have absolutely access to the latest and the most current information wherever you are. So be that in the office, be that at home, be that traveling, be that sat in an airport, be that sat in front of your client. And I think this is a really powerful and at the moment underexploited opportunity for small businesses. And the small businesses I see, remember what the 7 Partnership guys were doing, the small businesses I see that really take advantage of this kind of opportunity, I think they're going to really steal a march on businesses that continue working in the traditional way. So enough about Office 365. Cloud's not all great. There are some challenges. Absolutely, security is a concern. I will be running a whole webinar and focusing on security later in this series, so I won't dwell on it too much right now. You absolutely need quality of service. So that means you do need a decent bandwidth to make these tools really work and smoothly and effectively for you. So as I say, if you do have the opportunity to get Superfast Broadband, I really would encourage you to seriously consider doing that, because it opens up some of the sorts of opportunities that we're talking about today. There are concerns about being locked into a particular provider. So once you've thrown your hat in the ring with, let's say Microsoft Office 365, moving away from it, it's not a trivial task. So there can be some concerns about where you're going to get support from. There may be concerns about customization, and there may be concerns about integrating whatever you're doing with other applications. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to for me is this: you need to be able to trust your cloud provider, because if you're going to go into cloud, then you are going to start relying on some of these systems quite heavily as you make best use of them. You will rely on them quite heavily to run and operate your business. So before you jump in with both feet, you do need to be able to trust your provider, which is easy for me to say, but somewhat harder to do, of course. But let me just share a few thoughts with you of things you can do to help you start to build that trust. The first thing is actually looking for information. Now, a number of providers are starting to actually publish information on their websites, particularly under this word trust. In fact, not all, but a number of them are. So Office 365 has a website called the Trust Center. If you're searching for it online, if you just search Office 365 Trust, Office 365 Trust Center, you will find it, absolutely no problem. But it's not just Office 365. The one in the top of the screen is a CRM application called Salesforce, a very widely used CRM cloud application, cloud-based CRM application called Salesforce, and they too have a page or a set of pages all about this trust. And what are they doing on that page? Well, what they're doing is giving you lots of information. And for me, I think there's three kinds of information that it's really important to get hold of and understand before jumping in both feet with a cloud-based service, particularly if it's something significant such as Office 365, or maybe putting CRM in the cloud, or putting your financial system in the cloud with Xero or Sage One, something like that. You need to. I strongly recommend you take a little bit of time to understand the answers to a few key questions, because that's the way to start to build this trust. And I think the questions really break down into three areas: technical, financial, and contractual. On the technical side, and when I talk technical questions, I mean beyond the can the application do what I need it to do. Once we get beyond that point, then there's some other technical questions to get answers to, and hopefully the providers provide the answers online through their websites. And some of the key questions are these. Firstly, where is my data? Because if it's a cloud-based system, then needless to say, your data will not be on your own premises, or copies of your data will not be on your own premises. They will be in the cloud provider's data center somewhere. Now, there's a number of considerations around the location, some of which are to do with security, some of which are to do with legal considerations, particularly if your data is the sort of data that's going to be subject to the Data Protection Act. So if you're holding data about clients, names, addresses, contact details, and especially if you're starting to hold financial data, then knowing where the data is really important, as I say, from the legal point of view, with the Data Protection Act for the FSA and a number of other of those organisations. I will talk about this in a lot more detail in the security webinar, but the summary, so far as today goes, is that if that data is in the UK, if you know it's in the UK, then that makes life easiest for you. The UK authorities will be, will be quite happy with that. If it's not in the UK but it is in the EU, again, you will be you're pretty safe, and there's not too much to worry about. If it goes outside the EU, then the next best place is the US. There's an arrangement called Safe Harbor, which I won't talk about now, but there's an arrangement which extends the safe area, if that's the right word, for data as viewed by the UK regulatory authorities into parts of the US, so long as the provider is part of the Safe Harbor scheme. And if it's anywhere else in the world, then there really are considerations and things you need to do to make sure you're not going to fall foul of things such as the Data Protection Act if it's that kind of data. So knowing where the data is important, and I would say that a good cloud service provider will be prepared to make that information public. They won't tell you literally which building on which street for security reasons, but they should tell you at the very least which country or countries the data is in. So for example, on Office 365, if you go to the Office 365 Trust Center, you will find that if you are a UK Office 365 client, your data stays within the EU, and there will be copies in Ireland and Holland. So knowing where your data is important, and one of the key bits of information to help you build that trust. Secondly, what security is in place. So again, a good software as a service provider will be able to be willing to tell you what, at a generic level, what security they have in place. I look for external evidence of that. The most common thing to look for is a certification called ISO 27001, ISO 27001. It's the information security equivalent of the ISO 9001 standard that most people have heard about. It's increasingly prevalent, and many cloud service providers now have that certification, and I always think that's that's a good thing. Helps to increase your trust. Look at what customer support is offered. Do they offer a support service at all? Is there a helpline? Is it just self-service support on the website? And the fourth one, can you create a local backup of your data? Again, depends on the sort of application you're looking at. If it's something like Office 365, then of course you create a local backup of your data. That's that's part and parcel of the offering. But if it's something like, let's say, an online financial system, can you create a local backup if that's important to you? I know a number of people who feel that they need to have that capability just to help them build the trust as they move towards more cloud-based systems. On the financial side, then looking at who the supplier's existing customers are may be easier said than done. They may be willing to, they may publish that information. Certainly encourage people to talk to friends, colleagues, other businesses that they know to find out what systems they're using. The reason for wanting to know about their existing customers is to try and get some feel for the longevity or otherwise of the cloud service provider. It is a fast-moving field at the moment, and there are some very well-known names offering services, and that's fine. And I'm not suggesting you have to use a well-known name, but what I'm saying is that it is worth spending a little time doing a little bit of homework. If you come across a cloud service provider that you've never heard of, just to find out, how new are they, and what risks are you, what level of risk are you potentially exposing yourself to if you start using a cloud service from a provider who hasn't got a track record and may not stay the course. Which relates to the second one that says, okay, if the cloud service provider does go out of business, what in their terms and conditions, what do they say, if anything, about what happens to your data should they go out of business? Again, I would say the best practice I know of is that there are cloud service providers out there who do state in their standard terms and conditions what happens if they do go out of business, and that they've made arrangements with other organisations, other companies, to ensure that firstly the service continues to operate for a period of months, and secondly that you will get they will work with you to get your data returned to you in a format that makes sense and is usable. So worth checking those things out. And then on the contractual side, there's some obvious ones. How will you be billed? Things like that. Minimum period cancellation terms. Then maybe slightly less obvious, the quality standards or the audits the supplier has achieved. Things such as the ISO 27001 accreditation that I mentioned just now. And the last one is what's the service level agreement? Now, the service level agreement is one of those things that all cloud service providers should have a service level agreement. They should publish it, and it's often in that in all the small print stuff. For those of you who've signed up for cloud services, you'll probably recall that the step before putting in your credit card number is usually ticking the box that says, yes, I've read all the terms and conditions, and we all tick the box because we have to, but perhaps not all of us read the terms and conditions. And it's in the terms and conditions, as well as on the provider's website, that you're going to find answers to the sort of things I'm talking about here. And in particular, it's in those terms and conditions you may well find this kind of information. And what I strongly suggest to you is that it is important to actually read that and understand that information, because that is the way, or that's the way to start to build the trust that I've talked about. So they will talk about the billing, the invoicing, the refunds, the cancellation, termination, and so forth. They may well have some statements about modifications to the service and prices. Worth taking a look at what they say. They are likely to say that the cloud service provider reserves the right to modify the service and the price as they see fit. So for cloud services, and particularly small business users to cloud services, we have little or no control over that. So if they choose to increase the price or something, our only choice other than to pay is usually just to stop using the service. We need to make sure we're comfortable with that, because that is the reality of it. We need to see what they say about service availability and support. They may well make statements that it will be 99% available or 99.9% available, but do understand what that means, and are they measuring it over days or weeks or years. They should make some statements about code and in particular data ownership. The goods cloud service providers will make it explicitly clear in their terms and conditions that any data you put in the system is your data, it is not theirs. So certainly I know for sure that Office 365 make those statements, as for Google. That if I create a file and store it in Office 365, as I do, that goes to that gets copied to synchronize with the copy in the Ireland and Amsterdam Microsoft data centers, then contractually that information is still mine. It is not Microsoft's. Most cloud service providers will make that statement, and I would encourage you to look for it. Again, to help to build the trust. See what they say about data loss and backups. Nobody that I know of will 100% guarantee they will never lose 1 byte of your data. They probably can't guarantee that, but see what they say about that. What sort of backup arrangements do they have in place? If they do lose data, do you have any comeback on them or not? See what they say about privacy in terms of your information. How will it be used? Who, if anybody, will they share it with? And see what they say about licensing. So all of those things, which hopefully you can see are, you would agree, are important. They're all the things that are buried in those terms and conditions. And I say to people, I think it's really important to actually look at those and understand them, more than just look at them, understand them, and understand what is and isn't being offered, and what the position is, so that you can actually, as I say, start to build this trust with the cloud service provider. And the other thing to look for is whether there's any guarantees of those results, or whether they're just statements of good intent. For cloud services that are offered for free, you won't get many guarantees, and by guarantees I mean financial guarantees. So if things don't go right, if maybe the service isn't available as much as they say it will be, or something else happens, is there any financial compensation available to us as small business users of the service? For free services, there won't be. And to be fair to cloud service provider, probably how can there be? Because if we're not giving them any revenue in the first place, then they're not going to offer to give us revenue back if they don't meet their side of the bargain. So if it's a free service, you will find in the service level agreements lots of statements about best endeavours and good intent and aims and all of that stuff, which is nice words, but at the end of the day doesn't guarantee anything. Whereas for the paid for services, again, some of them still only do best endeavours and things, which I don't think is as good as it should be. But for some of the paid for services, you will see statements that says if they fail to meet what they say they will do, then the amount then you will get basically you'll get reduced bills. Now what you get is typically a sort of service credit, so you'll get a month free or 2 months free or something like that. So you're not going to there won't be any service level agreement that starts guaranteeing large sums of money, but at least there is a level of guarantee there that says they things do happen and credits are available if they don't meet their side of the bargain. Okay, we're reaching the end of our time. That's all I wanted to cover today. So thank you for your thank you for attending today. I hope you found that useful. As I said before, there is a lot more information on the Optimising Business Broadband website. If you do have any last questions, then please now is the opportunity to quickly type them into the question window. The one question we do have is whether cloud is appropriate for micro businesses as well as small businesses, to which my answer is absolutely yes. Different businesses will use different aspects of cloud and different cloud systems, and if you remember back to the pyramid I talked about earlier in the webinar, then micro businesses may well not be using something as complex as NetSuite or something like that, but in terms of using cloud for the sort of things, hopefully the sort of things we focused on today for day-to-day working, and particularly this aspect of collaborating and sharing information both across your own devices but also across other people, then for me that's equally as appropriate to a one-person business as it is to a 20-person business, as it is to a 100-person business, or much bigger businesses. So is cloud appropriate for micro businesses as well as small businesses? Absolutely yes. Okay, I don't think there's any further questions today, so that concludes the webinar. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to talking to you again on future webinars. Thank you very much indeed.